Chosen one, there's something the world keeps forgetting, but you must remember. What you throw into the spirit comes back with fire. Not always when they expect, not always where they expect, but it returns. And when it does, it doesn't knock. It arrives dressed in consequence, cloaked in divine precision. You see, this isn't karma. This is something deeper. This is the law of return, heaven's invisible justice system. Quiet, but never blind. Exact, but never rushed. It moves in silence, but strikes with undeniable accuracy. When someone touches a chosen one with envy, slander, betrayal, they are not just speaking into the air. They're writing a contract, a spiritual IOU, and the universe never forgets to collect. You've felt it, haven't you? The sting of being misunderstood, lied on, tested without cause. You held your tongue. You chose stillness instead of vengeance. And maybe they mistook that for weakness. But what they didn't see was the judge watching in the unseen. Because what touches the chosen echoes through eternity. You are not just a person, you are a ripple. And when someone disturbs that ripple with malice, heaven records the wave. The storm doesn't show up the next morning, but oh, when it does, it returns measured, multiplied, and mirrored to the sender. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to explain yourself to empty vessels. Why? Because you're not chasing revenge. You trust the return. Say it with me right now, chosen one. I don't chase revenge. I trust the return. And if you've ever watched the fire come full circle, if you've ever seen silence speak louder than rage, if you've ever felt God defend you without lifting a finger, comment 7 money mint in the comments. Because you know the fire always finds its way home. Divine justice is not loud, but it is loyal. And every seed sown in secret will bloom in public, whether for glory or for grief. Let them throw stones, let them whisper. Let them think the delay means escape. The law of return is not asleep. And for the chosen one, that law doesn't just defend, it protects, it repays, it remembers. Stay in position, the fire has already been sent. Chosen one, there's something you need to understand deep in your bones. You are not being attacked because of what you've done. You're being attacked because of what you carry, and that truth alone will set some things straight in your spirit. You see, there is a kind of light that doesn't just shine, it shakes. It doesn't just glow softly in a corner. It rattles the walls of darkness that have been sitting undisturbed for years. It provokes hidden things. It wakes up silent spirits. It irritates anything that's been built on illusion. That's the light you carry, not a decorative light, but a disruptive one. One that shifts the atmosphere just by walking into the room. And so, the resistance you feel, it's not a mistake. It's a signpost. Confirmation that your energy is doing exactly what it was designed to do. You don't need to speak. You don't need to prove. You are the evidence. And your presence alone sends tremors into the dimensions most people can't see. This is why you're misunderstood. This is why people project their unhealed wounds onto you. This is why rooms grow quiet when you enter. Because truth has a frequency. And when you walk in, everything that doesn't resonate with truth feels exposed. They'll call you too much. They'll say you're intense. They'll twist your peace into pride. But hear me, they're not reacting to your personality. They're reacting to your power, the unspoken authority you carry just by existing in alignment. Let's be clear, this light was not meant to be hidden. It was never meant to blend in. It was born to disturb, to awaken, to call out the false without even saying a word. Say this with me now. My light is not for hiding, it is for shaking. Because you've seen it, the shift in energy when you walk into certain rooms, the side eyes, the awkward tension, not because you did anything wrong, but because your energy introduces truth before you even open your mouth. And truth always demands a reaction. You've been asking why you've been targeted, isolated, or betrayed. You've wondered why the attacks seem to come unprovoked. But this is your checkpoint moment. You're not being attacked for what you do. You're being attacked for what you carry. You carry a calling that threatens every lie. You carry a fire that exposes the counterfeit. You carry a frequency that makes demons nervous. And that's why they come for you. Not because you're weak, but because your light is waking the slumbering world. So let them react. Let them project. Let them misunderstand. Because every time your presence shakes a room, You fulfill part of your divine assignment. This is not rejection, it's recognition. Even if they don't say it with words, their reaction is proof that your light is being felt. So don't dim, don't shrink, don't apologize for the impact of your energy. You were never meant to walk in shadows. You are the lamp placed on a hill, the fire lit in the depths of a storm, the echo of divine truth in a world addicted to illusion. If you've ever walked into a room and felt it shift, if you've ever felt targeted without cause, pressured without provocation, isolated just for existing, comment 90999 right now. Because you know what it means to disturb the darkness. And the darkness knows who you are too. Chosen one, your light is not a liability, it's a divine weapon. And the war was never personal, it was always spiritual. So stand tall, shine loud, and let every reaction remind you, you are not just seen, you are sent, chosen one. You were never meant to be invisible. You were never created to blend in with the crowd, to dilute your essence, or to dim what heaven designed to shine. You were sent to reflect, to reveal, to expose. And because of that, you are a mirror. Not the soft kind that flatters, but the honest kind. The kind that shows people who they really are when all their masks fall off. This is why your presence is unsettling to some. Why people feel irritated around you, even when you've said nothing at all. It's not your fault, it's your function. You reveal what others spend their entire lives trying to hide. You don't have to call anyone out. You don't have to name names. Just being in the room is enough. Because when a mirror enters, the pretending starts to tremble. Chosen one, their irritation, it's not about you, it's their false identity rubbing up against your truth, their ego meeting your reflection, their illusion cracking under your clarity. Checkpoint moment. Their irritation is just their mask meeting your mirror. They're not mad at your voice. They're mad at what your voice awakens. They're not angry at your walk. They're shaken by your alignment. You remind them of the truth they abandoned. You reflect the courage they never claimed. And so they react. Some withdraw, some attack, some mock, manipulate, or misinterpret your silence. But pause and breathe, chosen one. You are not the cause of their chaos. You are the trigger of their truth. That's a heavy calling, and yet you carry it with grace. You've been the one in the room who doesn't play the game, who doesn't fake the smile, who doesn't compromise to keep the peace. And that unsettles those who built their lives on performances. But hear me, you weren't born to perform. You were born to pierce. To pierce through pretense, to pierce through confusion, to pierce through generational delusion with the light of God's remembrance. And yes, it can be lonely. Yes, you may lose people. Yes, you will be labeled as too intense, too deep, or too different. But that's because your frequency doesn't match their fantasy, and your truth doesn't serve their comfort. Still, you must not shrink. Still, you must not soften the shine to make others feel safe in their shadows. Say this aloud right now. I won't dim what heaven designed to shine. You were never the problem. You were the mirror in the room full of people afraid to look. And when people are afraid to look, they'd rather shatter the mirror than face the reflection. But even in pieces, the truth still reflects. You are that truth. You are that fire. You are that mirror. And you don't need to change a thing, except to keep standing, keep reflecting, keep radiating what is real. Because the world doesn't need another mask, it needs more mirrors. So if you've ever been blamed for someone else's projection, if you've ever watched someone lash out after simply being seen, if your truth has triggered reactions that made no earthly sense, just know heaven saw it all, and your assignment is still intact. The law of return will handle what was thrown, but as for you, keep reflecting, keep disrupting, keep shining, because the ones who cannot stand the mirror were never meant to walk in your light. Chosen one, let this settle in your spirit. Heaven counts every seed, not just the ones sown in public, not just the ones announced with applause or cloaked in kindness, but even the ones thrown in secret, the silent curses, the private slanders, the whispered envy. Nothing escapes the eye of the divine. You see, people think that because they whispered it behind closed doors, because they disguised it as a joke, because they never said your name out loud, that it won't echo in the courts of heaven. But let me tell you something prophetic and true. No curse spoken in private escapes the ears of the divine. The moment they speak it, heaven records it. The vibration enters the eternal ledger, and the law of return begins to move. quietly but without fail. You've felt it, haven't you? That cold breeze from someone who smiled in your face but sent darts behind your back. You've picked up on it. Not because you're paranoid, but because you are spiritually wired to discern what others dismiss. Chosen one, this is your checkpoint. You don't need to confront every shadow. You don't need to clap back at every whisper. Because while they were busy planting curses in the dark, you were being rooted deeper in the light. And what's grown in light cannot be undone by shadows. This is where trust becomes warfare, not the loud kind, but the sacred, still kind. You don't need to fight their words, and because heaven already has. Say this with me now. God handles the whispers, I handle the growth. Every time you chose silence over retaliation, every time you kept building while they kept gossiping, every time you took the hit without returning the fire, you triggered a divine transaction. And those hidden attacks, they don't go unseen. They collect interest in the spirit. And when they return with fire, not favor. That's why some people are stumbling right now, tripping over the very traps they set for you. That's why some connections suddenly fell apart, why certain doors slammed shut without warning, because heaven intercepted what was meant to harm you. You didn't have to expose them. You didn't have to explain yourself. You didn't have to match their energy. You just had to stay aligned and let alignment speak louder than accusation. The same soil that swallows seeds also reveals what was planted in time. And life returns everything, even intentions, even energies, even the motives people swore were hidden. So don't let bitterness take root. Don't waste your strength trying to defend yourself against what God already judged. You've already won in realms they can't reach. And if you've ever seen heaven fight for you, if you've ever watched the tables turn without lifting a single finger, if you've ever seen God answer your silence with swift correction, comment fire in the comments. Because that wasn't luck, that was law, the law of return. It is relentless, it is righteous, and it remembers. So stay grounded, stay graceful, and keep planting what you want to see returned. Because in this kingdom, every seed speaks, and heaven is always listening. Chosen one, let them misunderstand it. Let them confuse it. Let them call your silence weakness, retreat, or defeat. Because what they don't see, what they can't see, is that your silence is not empty. It is weaponized peace. You were trained for this, not to react, but to respond with alignment, to hold your fire until it's time to burn, to choose sacred restraint over emotional reaction. And that's not cowardice, that's strategy, because the chosen do not waste fire on every insult. They wait for the spirit to move. You see, peace isn't the absence of power. Peace is power. It is the thunder held back behind the clouds, the storm that could fall, but waits for divine permission. This is your checkpoint. Your peace is not absence, it is power. When you walk away from conflict, when you remain still in the middle of provocation, you are not shrinking. You are commanding. You are saying with your restraint what your enemies will never comprehend with words. Say this with me now. My silence says what words never could. They don't understand the calm because they've never had to carry fire. But you've carried it. And you've learned the weight of it. You've learned that sometimes the strongest move isn't to strike, but to wait. Chosen one, don't let their noise shake your knowing. Don't let their chaos pull you out of position. Because silence doesn't mean you're numb. It means you're tuned in. It means your spirit is listening while the world is yelling. Even Jesus stayed silent when falsely accused. Even lions sit still before they roar. Even fire waits inside wood until it's struck. And you are no different. You are not passive. You are precise. Calm not because you lack fire, but because you know when to burn. Say it again, boldly. I am calm, not because I lack fire, but because I know when to burn. The world celebrates those who scream first, but heaven backs those who move last, with purpose, not panic, with prophecy, not impulse. You've been tested lately, haven't you? Provoked, misread, dragged into spiritual battlegrounds where your name was on tongues that don't even know your anointing. But you didn't clap back. You didn't retaliate. You didn't throw your pearls to pigs. You kept your fire under God's command. And that is why the law of return is moving on your behalf. Because silence speaks in heaven louder than noise does on earth. Stillness becomes a roar in the spirit. And peace, true peace, is not a pause. It is a position. So stay in that posture, stay anchored, stay silent when God says be still, and move only when the release is divine. And if you've ever seen how peace handled what rage could not, if your silence has ever triggered judgment, if your restraint ever brought results your words never could, then you know this truth in your bones. Comment fire if your stillness has ever shaken an entire atmosphere. Chosen one, your silence is not weakness, it's alignment. And alignment always invites justice. So rest in that peace, not because you couldn't fight, but because you knew when not to. The storm is watching, the heavens are listening, and the law is already in motion. Chosen one, you didn't just wake up strong, you were forged not in applause, not in comfort, but in silence, in rejection, in rooms that never saw you, and voices that tried to bury you before you could rise. You were trained in tears so you could stand in fire. Every sleepless night, every heartbreak that bent but didn't break you, every season where you had to encourage yourself in the dark, it all had purpose. You didn't cry for nothing. You were being carved. See, the world looks at your strength and they wonder where it came from. They see the calm in your eyes, the certainty in your spirit, but they didn't witness the wilderness. They didn't see you break down and get back up with no hand to pull you. That's the part they don't know, that you didn't become resilient by reading about it. You became it through the storm. You became it when everything around you told you to quit, but something within you whispered, keep going. You were not punished, you were prepared. Say that again. I was not punished, I was prepared. This is your checkpoint. Your scars are scrolls, proof of survival, proof that heaven did not leave you where pain found you, proof that fire tried but could not consume you. You've endured things others don't even have language for. You've been misunderstood by people who never even took the time to see you. You've cried prayers with no audience but God. And yet, here you are, stronger, sharper, quieter, yes, but deeper. Not because life spared you pain, but because you learned to carry purpose in the midst of it. Chosen one, you've got a fire in your spirit that didn't come from books. It came from surviving battles you didn't sign up for, but couldn't avoid. People see your peace now and assume it was always there. They don't know it was built from pieces, that your silence is layered with wisdom and your laughter is stitched with memory. You were trained in tears so you'd never bow to fire. So you could walk through attacks, betrayals, delays, and not flinch, not fold. Because when you've been refined in the secret place, the battlefield doesn't scare you. You walk with a different posture now, a knowing, a holy awareness that you've been through too much not to shine, too much not to stand tall. And if your pain became your protection, if you can look back and see how the fire didn't kill you, but shaped you, then go ahead and comment 333. That's the code of transformation. That's the number of divine awakening. Chosen one, you're not broken. You're built. Built by pressure, built by fire, built by hands that knew exactly what you would need before the battle ever reached your name. You were trained in private for a purpose that would shake the public. And now, you're walking into the fire with armor made of memory, and every scar is a prophecy. So stand tall. You're not who they thought you were. You're everything heaven knew you'd be. Chosen one. They thought their words would define you. They thought their laughter would bury you. They thought the room they gossiped in was sealed from consequence. But what they forgot, what they never knew, was that while they talked, God took notes. Every whisper, every twisted version of your story, every moment they mocked your name without ever knowing your anointing. Heaven heard it, and heaven recorded it. Mockery is loud, but heaven is louder. You see, they judged you from the outside, not realizing you were being rewritten on the inside. They laughed at your process, not knowing it was a birthing. They confused delay with denial, not knowing that silence was the stage for transformation. While they laughed, you were being rewritten. Say that aloud. While they laughed, I was being rewritten. Not destroyed, not forgotten, but reauthored by the hand of the one who knew your ending before they ever spoke your name. They gave you a label. God gave you a manuscript, a sacred unfolding, a story that no mocker could erase. Because you are not a headline, you are heaven's manuscript. Say it softly. I am not a headline. I am heaven's manuscript. They saw the chapter they thought was your final fall, but God was already preparing the next page. They watched the scene of your breakdown, but missed the footnote that said, this is not the end. Chosen one, you must understand the weight of your journey. Every false accusation, every cold shoulder, every moment of humiliation didn't reduce you. It revealed you. It revealed the capacity in you to carry purpose without applause, to walk through the wilderness without needing to be seen, to endure spiritual warfare without losing your softness. They thought they were writing your story, but God was watching theirs. Because while they were busy using their mouths, heaven was using its pen. And the law of return doesn't miss a word. Every seed sown in gossip will bloom in exposure. Every lie planted will reap divine truth. Every attack launched against a chosen one will return, multiplied, measured, met with fire. But you don't need to defend your name. You don't need to prove your worth, because your story isn't being written in headlines. It's being etched in eternity. You were never the joke. You were the journey, the unfolding, the living reminder that divine justice does not rush, but it never fails. So let them talk. Let them spin their stories. Let them count you out. Because while they talk, heaven takes notes. And when heaven writes a vindication chapter, the world will have no choice but to read it out loud. If you've ever been mocked for your faith, silenced in your truth, or watched people turn your pain into entertainment, but still rose anyway, comment 303.3 in the comments. That number carries restoration. That number says God saw it all, and He's not finished writing. So hold your head high. You're not what they said. You're what heaven is still revealing. Chosen one, you've got to stop internalizing what was never personal, because it wasn't about you. It was about your light. Your presence disrupted what they were trying to hide. Your truth became a mirror. And when they looked into that mirror, they saw chains they weren't ready to face. Their attacks weren't born from clarity. They were born from bondage, spiritual chains, emotional prisons, old wounds wrapped in new anger. And when your freedom walked in, it reminded them they were still trapped. This is your checkpoint. It wasn't personal, it was prophetic. They didn't hate you because you harmed them. They hated you because your existence challenged the lies they built their identity on. You breathing truth made their illusions tremble. You walking in purpose made their stagnation feel exposed. You being you made them uncomfortable with being lost. And so they lashed out. Not because you were wrong, but because your light revealed everything they were trying to keep in the dark. Say this with me. Their hate wasn't about me. It was about their reflection. You were a mirror. You didn't come to hurt them. You came to reflect them. And some people would rather destroy the mirror than change the image. Don't let it break your heart. Let it wake your spirit. The rejection, the betrayal, the slander, all of it was rooted in their inner war, not yours. You just happened to trigger what they hadn't healed. But here's the truth. You were never meant to dim to make the chain feel safe. You were meant to shine so boldly that they either break free or expose themselves trying to silence you. And that's exactly what they did. They exposed their own bondage. They revealed their own jealousy. They showed you the chains still clinging to their souls. But you kept walking, you kept loving, you kept showing up in truth, even when it cost you comfort. And now you know it was never about you. It was always about what your light revealed. So stop explaining yourself to people committed to their cages. Stop trying to get love from those who've only known war. Stop chasing validation from those threatened by your vibration. Instead, stand in the truth of this moment. You are not the cause of their chaos. You are the confirmation of your calling. And if you've ever been hated for simply showing up in your light, if you've ever been talked about, lied on, or pushed away, not for what you did, but for who you are, comment 888. That number carries divine justice, completion, spiritual inheritance. Because what they meant for harm, heaven is flipping for favor. And every tongue that rose against you will be silenced by the fruit of your obedience. Chosen one, don't shrink, don't soften, don't explain away the fire God put inside you just because it makes chained people sweat. Let them sweat, let them react, let them run from their own reflection. You are not their enemy, you are their mirror, and mirrors don't apologize for being clear. You just keep standing, because what was once their attack will soon become your testimony. Chosen one, there's a lie they've tried to sell you, that silence is surrender, that stillness means you're giving up, that if you don't fight back with noise, you're losing. But let me tell you something heaven has whispered to you since the fire began. Remaining isn't weakness. It's spiritual warfare. There is a kind of strength that doesn't shout, a kind of warfare that doesn't throw punches but plants roots. You weren't sent here to react to every jab. You weren't called to chase every insult or clap back at every lie. You were trained to stand. And standing in truth, when lies surround you, is not weakness. It's holy defiance. It's sacred resistance. It is a quiet roar that heaven echoes louder than any human voice. Here's your checkpoint. Standing still in chaos is a holy rebellion. You don't remain because you're powerless. You remain because you're planted. You remain because you know who holds the soil beneath your feet. You remain because leaving would mean leaving your post, and a chosen one does not abandon their post. Say this now. I was not built to bend. You were not built for collapse. You were not made for concession. You were fashioned in the secret place to stand firm. When others flee, when systems crumble, when voices rise up just to pull you down, you stand not because you don't feel the fire, but because you understand the assignment. The real war isn't in the shouting. It's in the spirit. It's in staying rooted while storms howl. It's in choosing restraint when chaos demands reaction. This is warfare, not with fists, but with faith. Not with rage, but with resolve. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to explain why you're still here. Your very presence is the proof. Because when the dust settles, it's not the loud who win, it's the anchored. You were made to last. You were built to endure. You were set apart not just to rise, but to remain when others unravel. And if you've ever stood in the middle of betrayal, stood in the face of accusation, stood through silence that should have broken you, but didn't, comment 999. Because that's how heaven marks the unshakable. That's how God identifies the ones he can trust with fire. Chosen one, your stillness isn't passive, it's prophetic. It says to every force watching, I will not move from where I was placed. And the law of return, it honors that, it surrounds that, it defends that. So let the world talk, let the storm spin, let the enemies gather. But as for you, remain, rooted, resolved. Because staying planted in chaos is what makes you unstoppable in purpose. Chosen one, let the world see what they thought would never rise. Let them witness what once wept now walking in power. Because you, yes, you, are the living proof that fire does not destroy the called. It refines them. It doesn't consume purpose. It unlocks it. They expected you to stay broken. They expected the storm to silence you, the betrayal to poison you, the rejection to bury you. But instead, you bloomed. You were never a victim of the fire. You were a vessel reborn by it. Every flame that touched your life only peeled back what wasn't supposed to stay. Every tear you shed became living water to a harvest now being revealed. This is your checkpoint. Every tear watered the harvest they now witness. You didn't cry in vain. You didn't hurt without reason. You were becoming sharper, becoming wiser, becoming more dangerous to darkness because pain has a way of awakening purpose. Say this with me now. My life is proof that pain births purpose. You didn't walk through hell for nothing. You walked through it so others could see that God still delivers. So others could say, if they made it, maybe I can too. That fire didn't kill your destiny. It clarified it. It taught you how to walk when everything else said sit down. It trained your eyes to see beyond the natural. It carved spiritual discernment into your bones. You're not weak because you wept. You're strong because you didn't stay there. You didn't let the fire define you. You let it refine you. And now look. Look at what's rising from the ashes. Look at the doors opening. Look at the power in your voice. Look at the healing in your presence. Look at the oil that's dripping from every scar. You are not a survivor. You are a sign that divine justice keeps receipts, that the law of return always circles back with glory for those who endured without folding. Chosen one, your life is the sermon. Your walk is the prophecy fulfilled. And if you've ever felt the fire try to break you, but now you're walking in what tried to kill you, comment 444. That's not just a number, that's legacy. That's alignment. That's heaven saying, I didn't forget the furnace. I just repurposed it. So don't hide the pain. Let them see it became your platform. Don't erase the past. Let them know it became your foundation. You are the evidence. You are the echo. You are the signpost that the storm was never stronger than the seed. And now you bloom with fire still in your roots. And heaven calls it good, chosen one. Let them doubt. Let them walk away. Let them mock the ruins they thought were your final resting place. Because what they didn't know is that when heaven rebuilds, even ashes bloom. You see, the world looks for applause. They look for signs, for noise, for stage lights and validation. But heaven moves in silence. Heaven resurrects in stillness. And heaven never needs permission from people to begin your rise. They thought the fire would finish you. They thought the loss would leave you unrecognizable. They saw the collapse and assumed it meant cancellation. But what they missed was that heaven was just clearing the ground. Because some things must burn before new life can take root. Some chapters must end so the scroll can begin. And some silence isn't death, it's divine construction. This is your checkpoint. Their applause was never the confirmation, your rising is. You were never built for claps. You were built for covenant. And covenant doesn't need a crowd, it just needs obedience. It just needs surrender. It just needs faith in the unseen. So while they were waiting for your downfall to stick, heaven was scripting your comeback. And now, you're not just rising, you're blooming. In places you were once buried, in rooms where your name was once slandered, in territories where you were once the outcast. Say this out loud, I bloom even when buried, because you are the seed they tried to discard, the stone they thought would never shine, the one who didn't need spotlight because God planted a glow within. Don't mistake the quiet seasons as empty ones. Don't confuse being hidden with being forgotten. Some of your greatest transformation happened in the silence, in the dark, in the unseen. You were not waiting. You were becoming. You were not delayed. You were developing. And now that the ground has shifted, now that the dust has settled, you're not rising for applause. You're rising because it's time. Because what God ordains, no man can undo. Let this whisper settle in your bones. My life rises even in silence. If you've ever been looked over, if you've ever been labeled done, if you've ever felt your name fade from their memory while God whispered, I'm not done, then you know this moment. This is not just a comeback. This is divine restoration. Not a rebuild of what was, but a resurrection into what always was meant to be. Chosen one, even ashes bloom when heaven is behind it. Even what broke you becomes the soil that grows you. Even what tried to destroy you becomes a stage for your destiny. So walk tall, not because they're clapping, but because God is calling. And if you've ever bloomed in a place that once buried you, comment 444, because that's the number of divine rebuilding, of sacred foundations, of heaven's hand doing what man said couldn't be done. You are proof that nothing is wasted, not even the fire, not even the tears, not even the ashes. When God rebuilds, everything returns stronger, deeper, and destined. And you, chosen one, are the bloom they never saw coming. Chosen one, you were never meant to stay buried, even when it looked like the end. When the flames came, when the smoke covered your name, when they turned their backs and counted you out, God was not done. Because when heaven rebuilds, even ashes bloom. Yes, the fire came. Yes, the collapse was real. Yes, it felt like everything you built was reduced to dust. But what they didn't know, what you needed to remember, is that God doesn't rebuild with bricks. He rebuilds with ashes, with the very things they thought disqualified you. The rejection didn't break you, it redirected you. The silence didn't erase you, it revealed you. And the loss wasn't the end. It was the ground for something sacred to rise. This is your checkpoint. Their applause was never the confirmation. Your rising is. You don't need their validation. You don't need the stage, the crowd, the post, the platform. Your life is the stage. Your consistency is the sermon. Your healing is the headline. Let this whisper anchor your soul. My life rises even in silence. Because you weren't waiting for permission. You were waiting for divine release. You were hidden, not forgotten. Held, not ignored. Rooted, not rejected. Sometimes God lets everything around you fall, just to prove that what he builds in secret can never be shaken by man. And here's the part that'll break every lie they told about you. You're rising from the very place they left you to rot. Not with bitterness, not with revenge, but with oil, with vision, with strength forged in silence. Say this out loud, I bloom even when buried. Because when they walked away, you found God's hand. When they laughed, heaven whispered, rise. When they mocked your ruins, God saw a foundation. You're not just rebuilding, you're resurrecting. And this time, you're not rebuilding what was. You're stepping into what was always meant to be. Let them talk. Let them scroll past. Let them wonder how you got back up. Because what's fueling this bloom isn't earthly, it's eternal. It's prophetic. It's divine. Chosen one, if you've ever bloomed in a season that tried to bury you, if you've ever felt God rebuilding you in secret, if you know what it's like to rise without applause, without a crowd, without a hand clap, comment 444. That's not just a number. That's your confirmation. That's the signal of sacred construction, of foundations heaven laid while you wept. Your comeback is not loud, it's holy. Your rising isn't dramatic, it's divine. And no one can stop what God ordains. You are walking proof that even in the ash, even after the storm, even beneath the burial, a bloom is still possible. And not just any bloom, a glory bloom, a testimony in full color, a harvest that speaks louder than any attack ever could. So rise, chosen one, not to prove them wrong, but to prove that God's hand is still writing, still restoring, still resurrecting. And your life, your very breath, is the bloom they never saw coming.